The Manor Church and Community Project was created in 2013, and it's an ecumenical project with the Methodists, the Anglicans and the United Reformed Churches all heavily involved in it. I'm a community minister, a church-led community work minister of the United Reformed Church, and the ecumenical project supports me. My stipend is paid by the United Reformed Church, my local expenses by the Methodist Church, and the Anglicans house me. So it's a fully ecumenical project based on the manor, working within the manor estate, work in partnership. There's no point in trying to do things on your own. I mean, it's a good community development principle to actually work in partnership with people. That way you bring sustainability to the work that you do. So we've got very good relationships. Obviously work very closely with the Sheffield Manor Parish, but we also work very closely with the Manor After School and Kids Club, which are based at one of our buildings, and I'm the chair of that organisation. The Manor Community Childcare Centre is again a very important part of that partnership. We work closely with Ely City Farm on a number of initiatives, and MANOR&CASTLE Development Trust, as well as working with obviously other agencies and people on the manor. When I first arrived, there was a very small congregation that met there on a Sunday, literally 3 or 4 people. When we decided to close that as a regular place of worship, there were various questions about, well, what do we do with the centre? Do we actually close and sell it? Do we try and do something more creative? So a number of consultations with the local community to see what they felt. Very clearly came back, they felt it was their church and their building and a key part of the local community. As a result, the Manor Church and Community Project, again with others, started a sort of a long-term initiative to try and redevelop the building. It's a 1950s building, formerly the William Temple Church, and was renamed the Temple Park Centre, which does incorporate still the William Temple Church. It was in really quite poor state. Hadn't really been that much investment probably for 30-40 years. The windows were original 1950s windows, etc. So we were unsuccessful with a lottery bid before I arrived. We tried a second lottery bid of about £500,000, which the feedback we had was it was well written, but the lottery was oversubscribed, so we were unsuccessful. Things then changed in terms of the funding landscape, that we couldn't then get a huge amount of capital funding from one organisation. So the decision was to then try and do the project in phases. So our first phase was a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. We managed to get some funding to replace the windows, the lighting, heating and redecoration. And that actually made a massive difference to the building and resulted in the Manor After School and Kids Club being our prime tenant in the building, which was is fantastic, and we worked very closely with that organisation. But it became very clear that if actually we wanted it as a multi-use community centre, then we needed still to do quite a lot of work to the building. If you used the hall, you actually couldn't access any other part of the building easily. So the idea was to open it up, and new entrance, new toilets which are very dated, a corridor in the existing hall which allows it opens it up to other parts of the building. That work is currently taking place. It's a £300,000 project. The building work hopefully will be finished at the end of September. The Manor After School and Kids Club. It's a local charity with a local board of trustees. They run, as it says in the title, an after-school club, and so provide childcare facilities during school term time. After school, they also run holiday provision. One of the other major parts of their work is to support children with special needs, and they do quite a lot of work with that through contracts with the council, and do as much as possible try and integrate that work with all their other work as well. It's been a very good partnership with Manor After School and Kids Club. As I said, I'm chair of that organisation, run by a board. We are still looking for trustees for that organisation, so if there are people that do see this, think that is something they could offer to that organisation, then we will be very keen to talk to you. Over the COVID crisis, they have completely relocated to a training centre on Prince of Wales Road, which is probably half a mile away. So that's where they are currently operating. Obviously, with the COVID restrictions, the demand has been less than it had been, and obviously with the restrictions as well, with social distancing, the numbers of children that they can actually work with have been less. The hope is that once the building work is complete, that obviously they'll be able to move back in October. I'm treasurer of the S2 Food Poverty Network, which is one of 16 food banks in Sheffield. Quite a large organisation run from two sites, one at St Swithin's and the other one down at the Salvation Army. So it's two sites for one organisation. That has grown quite a lot over the years since it began in 2013. We also operate a food club. So obviously with the food bank, it's people in crisis that are referred to us, and we provide that food provision. What we then do after a period of time is to move them on to the food club. We also give them support. It's a holistic approach in terms of perhaps debt, or what are the issues that are causing them to need support, and to try and either help them or signpost them through that, so that has dramatically increased in terms of the demand, obviously over the COVID crisis. I think at one point our demand had increased by 4 or 5 fold virtually overnight, which was a real challenge. It was about 400, I think at the peak, about 400 families a week. We had real problems sourcing food at the very beginning. We had for a number of years used Asda, partly because it's reasonably cheap, but also because they deliver, and the quantity of food that we get, we needed an organisation or a supermarket that delivered. But obviously when the COVID-19 crisis reared its head, shelves were stripped of food, and for 2 or 3 weeks we really struggled as an organisation to source enough food to give out to our clients, and obviously that demand had also increased. Eventually, after about 2 or 3 weeks, we did actually source a wholesaler who has been able to provide the food. It's more expensive because it tends to be the branded food rather than supermarket-owned food, which is cheaper. But that has really been a lifesaver for us. What we also are operating and offering is the support to the Sheffield Food Bank Network. There is a COVID-19 appeal, and I'm managing and distributing the funds on behalf of that organisation as well to all the 16 food banks in Sheffield. And that appeal has so far raised over £83,000. It's been a massive response to the crisis financially. We are in a much better financial position now than we were in March. What we don't know, and this is why it's good to have reserves, is what a second spike or other demand when the furlough scheme and perhaps unemployment dramatically rises. We are expecting another spike of demand, but that is unknown. But we do now have the structure and the reserves to be able to cope with that. For us, the best way of giving really is by standing order, if people can do that, because that allows us also to budget, knowing that there is that amount of money coming in per month. Obviously, one-off donations are very welcome as well, as are food donations, and we do actually have tons of food that is donated from people each month as well. Our major aim of the food bank is to close the food bank. It is our number one aim. We were very late in creating the S2 Food Poverty Network, and it's intentionally called that and not the food bank, because it is partly about that campaigning issue in today's society. When we are the 6th richest country in the world, we shouldn't be in a position where we're having to give out food in food banks. I mean, it's fundamentally wrong. But there is a demand and there is a great need. What we are trying to do is to do that in a sort of community development approach. So it's not just about giving out food without questions. It's about trying to support those people, clients that are using the food bank, so that they can help themselves, whether that's paying the benefits that are due to them or trying to tackle some of the issues. Debt is one of those big issues. Until there is a fundamental change, I think, of policy, government policy, I can't really see that certainly the demand to the food bank will end. We need that change of policy, and we do campaign for that. And I know that the MP for Sheffield Central has spoken in Parliament about this, and it's something that it shouldn't be part of the norm of society. You know, if it does become just one of the normal things that the churches and individuals are involved with without questioning it, I think that's a fundamental issue, and he's wrong.